Welcome, everyone. You could be resting or spending time with your children or doing laundry, but you're here instead, and I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm Barry, and this is a crash course on the stages of the mediation process from start to finish. What happens in a mediation session, in what sequence, and what the mediator is working to achieve at each point. Okay. Right, so you should be able to see my slide deck there. Quick housekeeping. I'll be talking for about half an hour, and then the rest of the time is yours for questions. We are recording this webinar and we'll email you a copy of the video afterwards. Check out the public resources tab on our website if you need a copy of the cheat sheet. A quick word on what I'm presenting tonight. Everything I'm going to say comes out of our training, almost word for word, and that is deliberate. This is the material our students work through, and I'd rather give it to you straight than to give you a watered down version of it. Here are 4 things you'll walk away with tonight. First, the 7 stages of a mediation session, your 7 strategies, and the tactics you'll be using in each of the 7 stages. Second, 2 detour strategies. Now, these aren't stages, they are tools or interventions you can use to bring the session back on track when things go wrong. Third, the one strategy that runs underneath the entire session, which is, of course, risk containment. And fourth, we will identify the trigger that tells you it's time to move on to the next stage or strategy. To the newcomers, don't try to memorize everything tonight. Just follow along. To the practicing mediators in the room, stay with me through the stuff you already know. I promise you'll learn something new. One more thing before we start. This section is a practical guide on conducting a mediation session and should be read with a cheat sheet. You'll get the cheat sheet after tonight, and I'd encourage you to keep it open while you listen. So here's our map. Here's the whole process on one slide. Now, just a note on the vocabulary we'll be using. In the previous webinar, we spoke about strategies, tactics, and techniques. Your strategy is the stage you're in. You can see them on the cheat sheet numbered 0 through 6. Every stage is its own strategy. Tactics are what the strategy must deliver. In other words, how we implement the strategy. You'll see them on the cheat sheet in the column titled Deliverables. So that's the second blue column there. The techniques are how you deliver it. So if you look at the examples column and the tips column, those are the techniques we're going to use. The common mistakes column is exactly what the name says. So look at the cheat sheet and reading it left to right, strategy or stage, tactics or deliverables, and techniques or examples and tips. From top to bottom, the stages start at stage 0 or strategy 0, which is preparation. Then 1, the introduction and asking for opening statements. Then 2, setting the agenda. And then there's 3, which is exploration, where we find what matters. 4 is option generation, where we allow the parties to build the proposals. 5 is reality testing and evaluation, where we test whether the proposals are going to be strong enough to work in real life. And 6 is negotiation and consensus building, where we close and record each of the points of agreement. Now, 2 of these strategies are not stages. We'll call them detours, because if the parties go off track, we'll use these strategies to get them back onto the road. The first detour is called de-escalation, and its job is to stabilize the room. The second one is called the domino. Like when you play dominoes as a child and you would knock one over and there's a whole cascade that happens. The job of the strategy is to remove the thing blocking your path. And you'll find that when you knock the first domino over, it becomes easy to resolve all of the issues standing behind it. The detour will temporarily take you off the stage you're working on. You take the detour, you do the work, then you come right back to where you were. When you're doing your practicals and you're in the coaching sessions, you can even say out loud, let's park this for a moment and then afterwards you pick it up where you left off. So the one thing running underneath everything we do in the sessions with our clients is risk containment, where we make the process safe before making it productive. It is not a stage and it is not a detour. It is a strategy that never switches off. Now, one caution on the sequence of the stages or strategies before we go into the details on each of them. Your mediation sessions always start at the beginning and then terminate when we reach the end. But there's a part in the middle, the yellow stages on the cheat sheet, where there is fluidity, like in a regular conversation. The yellow stages give the mediator the freedom to move between exploring, generating options, and testing whether they actually work. Then once an option or a proposal survives reality testing, we take them into the final stage where we negotiate and record the details. Once an issue has been settled, we'll go back for more issues, we'll spend more time in the yellow stages and take them into the final stage until we run out of issues. That's the whole thing on one page. If you can follow this model, you can mediate. Every stage, every strategy, every stage and every detour has a trigger. If you're going to take a screenshot or a photograph tonight, this is the slide you're looking for. Stage 0 is preparation. So when you prepare to mediate, you're going to study the case file and you're going to arrive in the right frame of mind. Stage 1 is the introduction. When you open the mediation session, here you're going to deliver a short introduction in about 45 to 90 seconds. And then you're going to ask the parties for their opening statements. Stage 2 is where you set the agenda after the introduction. Here we're going to turn what the parties said into a neutral list of agenda points. Stage 3 is exploration. So once the agenda has been set, we're going to get all of the facts on the table, and then we're going to start the process of moving from positions to interests. Stage 4 is option generation. So once you're able to separate the positions the parties came in with from their interests, we get them to put the proposals on the table. Stage 5 is reality testing, where once the parties have generated an option or proposal, we test it against real-life implementation. Stage 6 is negotiation and consensus. When an option has passed reality testing, we flesh out the details, and then we record the points of the agreement. Now, those are all stages of the mediation process, but we're not done with the list. De-escalation is a detour at my disposal. If the room gets heated, I can use de-escalation to bring the temperature down. The domino is another detour that I can use. If the session gets stuck, or if a party keeps coming back to an issue, I know I need to find the domino and I need to remove it so we can move forward with the session. All of this gets underpinned by risk containment, where we make this process safe before making it productive, and we keep on doing this throughout the session. Here's the catch. If you're busy with your practicals, we might stop you mid-session and ask, what are you trying to achieve at this moment and why? If you're able to answer the question, I know that you know what you're doing. A solid response might be, I'm in exploration because he still can't tell me what she's worried about. In other words, the positions have not yet been separated from the interests. Righto, let's get into stage 0. This stage of the mediation process is the easiest one to overlook, and it will cost you the most if you skimp on it. Before your mediation session, do the following. 1, study all the relevant documentation, previous agreements, court orders, the works. Do it at least a day before the session, not on the same day. 2, prepare yourself mentally so that you're in a state of relaxed awareness, also known as being in the now or being fully present. Let me say a bit about this last one because it sounds a bit airy-fairy, but it really isn't. Every morning when you wake up, you are programming yourself for the rest of the day, whether you know it or not. That first hour of the day is the most precious hour. Skip Facebook, skip WhatsApp, skip the news, especially skip the news. Create a relaxed, focused state of mind while you're getting ready for the day. A kind of a center point that you can come back to at any time later during the day. Now, going into the mediation session, remind yourself, I have fully prepared. I've done everything I needed to do. And all that I have to do today is to just listen to what my clients are saying. We're just going to have a conversation. There is never any need for a performance on the part of the mediator. If you're mediating online, like most of us do, keep the cheat sheet open on your computer. Nobody can see what's on your screen. The common mistakes to avoid in this stage is trying to keep a zillion concepts in your head, which means that you're not fully present. And of course, you have to actually prepare for the case. Your introduction is going to set the tone for the rest of the session. It is not just a formality. It creates structure and clarity for the rest of the session. See the introduction as an icebreaker. You want to move the room from a formal feel to an informal feel as quickly as possible. The introduction covers 5 things: welcoming, neutrality, confidentiality, voluntariness, and opening statements. Now, you've already met with the parties and you've already explained all of these concepts to them before. Now, today you're just going to be reminding them of the roles that each person is going to play. As a mediator, you are always working against the clock. Keep your introduction short. They're not going to remember it anyway. Save time for the later stages in your session. Here's the introduction I like to use. Thank you for being here. What we discuss in today's session is confidential. My role is to help you explore solutions while remaining neutral, and we're going to explore different options to arrive at a good settlement for both parties. The process is voluntary. I'm not going to force you to do anything, and you're welcome to get a legal opinion before you sign any agreements. Next, I'm going to ask each of you for your brief opening statements. So let's start with Party X. Now, there's no benefit to going first. Party X, tell me, what are the key issues we need to resolve today? And that's the whole introduction. Less than a minute and everybody knows what's happening. Here's the technique. Practice your introduction on camera or in front of the mirror. Slow down. Imagine you're explaining something to a close friend. If you're nervous, stick a photo of that friend or family member onto your laptop next to the webcam and pretend you're talking to them instead of the parties. Try to shake the formality as early in your session as possible. Your clients are going to open up about some very private matters. Let your voice and your presence show them that it's safe. The most common mistake mediators make is not rehearsing the introduction or putting a whole bunch of words into it that really serves no purpose. Okay, introduction done. Stage 2, agenda setting. Here we're going to turn the parties' opening statements into a short, clear list of issues. The mediator listens closely for what the parties are saying, but even closer for what they are implying. The next step is to record the agenda points, summarize them while filtering out abrasive language, and then check if you missed any points. If you still have the cheat sheet open on your screen, you can see how easy it is to let the cheat sheet do the work here. Filter for content rather than emotional detail. This means not recording accusations as agenda items. Use neutral language instead. Look for the subtext, the implied issues that are not being said in words, and then confirm the agenda with both parties. Now, here's where it's easy to get things wrong. The issues raised by the parties are not the agenda points. The agenda is the neutral list of issues to be addressed. So I don't want him to see the children becomes contact arrangements on my agenda. I want the house and the Mitsubishi becomes the division of the assets, including the house and the cars. Neutralize abrasive language. He cheated on me with his assistant becomes the outside relationship. The final product looks something like this. Thank you, Party X. To summarize, your agenda points are 1, contact arrangements, 2, division of the assets, including the house and the cars, and 3, the outside relationship. And follow up with, did I miss any points? Okay, Party Y, what are the key issues we need to resolve today? A few techniques. Use the notepad on your computer to write down single words or phrases as the parties speak, and keep it open so that you can record additional information as the parties are speaking during exploration. Resist the urge to fluff the agenda points or to try to explain concepts to the same people who explained them to you just a second before. You're just reading a list. The parties will provide the context and the explanations later. So don't explore yet. That's the next stage. If the parties interrupt each other, here's what you do. 1, let them run out of steam. 2, wait in silence for 2 or 3 uncomfortable seconds. 3, say to the offender, Party Y, we'll explore this after we set the agenda. Party X, please continue. If the parties again interrupt each other, let them run out of steam, wait 2 or 3 seconds, and then immediately go into side meetings without explaining anything. The most common mistake mediators make here include missing agenda points, where they're not looking for the implied meaning. So read between the lines when the parties are speaking. Secondly, exploring during agenda setting. And thirdly, losing your composure during interruptions. On to stage 3, exploration, where we find what matters. Now we're into the middle of the session, and I want to show you the shape of it before we start. We're moving between 3 stages, and each one is its own strategy. Exploration, option generation, and reality testing and evaluation, where we're going to prepare solutions for stage 6, negotiation and consensus building. The bar on the left of the cheat sheet indicates this. Once an issue has been resolved, you can move back into exploration, or you can go straight into option generation. This part of the session does not have a rigid structure, or rather it is fluid. The purpose of exploration is to determine the status quo, to find targeted information, and to resolve the dominoes and the agenda points. Here, the mediator uses joint sessions and side meetings. Save time by establishing the status quo in the joint session, checking for only that information that will give you the lay of the land. For example, what the current arrangements are, whether the parties are still living in the same house, how often each parent sees the children, when the last time was that maintenance was paid. Great, now we know what's happening. From here, you have complete freedom to choose between joint sessions and side meetings. And here's the test I'd like you to apply. Before going into caucus, can you name the purpose of that side meeting? If not, stay in the joint session. By now, you probably already know what the dominoes for this case are. Choose 1 or 2 big issues and focus exclusively on those. Trying to get all the facts on all the issues is going to cost you precious time, and it's just going to create confusion. So, explore only the 1 or 2 most important issues at a time. Let me give you the actual words. In the joint session, for establishing the status quo, are you both living in the family home? When did you move out, Party X? How often are you seeing the children, Party X? When was the last time maintenance was received for the children, Party Y? Then for the side meetings, for targeted exploration, you announce it as, now that we have an agenda, let's flesh out the issues inside meetings. I'd like to chat with party X first, then we catch up immediately afterwards, party Y. In the side meeting with party X, you open with what we discuss inside meetings is confidential, and then immediately go to what's the one issue that matters the most to you. When you find what you're looking for, you might ask something like, if I take this back into the joint session, how would you like it to be framed? And what that's going to do is that is going to build rapport. And at the end of the site meeting, is there any of this that I cannot take back into the joint session, party X? Note that we always open site meetings with confidentiality and always close site meetings by checking what we cannot take back into the joint session. Okay, so let's take a look at good questions and bad questions. The quality of your exploration depends on the quality of your questions. So let me compare the two side by side. Bad questions are yes/no questions. Good questions are open-ended. Bad questions are stuck in the problem. Good questions are future-focused. Bad questions are party-centered. Good questions are child-centered. Bad questions deal in positions exclusively. Good questions look for the interest under those positions. And in bad questions, the mediator comes up with the solutions. In good questions, you allow the parties to come up with the solutions. So let's take a look at two examples. On drug testing and supervised contact, the bad version is, would you be okay with him doing drug tests to prove he's sober? Notice how it has a yes/no answer and how it focuses on the problem. The good version or the better version of this question is, how do we keep the children safe? Let the parties come up with a solution. All the research out there shows that this is crucial for a durable agreement between the parties. On rehabilitative maintenance, the bad version is, would you be willing to pay her 10,000 a month or 15,000 a month until she finds a job? The good version is, how can we get her to become financially independent? The way the question is structured is important. Look at the difference between these two. Why do you want that? Comes across like an attack. What would it mean for you if X, Y, and Z happened? Sounds like you're genuinely looking for an answer. So these are just two ways of wording the exact same question. Some techniques for this stage: ask short, open-ended questions. Build rapport with active listening in side meetings. This is the currency that's going to allow you to do reality checking later. Ask about what happened and listen actively. Normalize emotions, not positions or conclusions. For example, you can say, that's completely understandable, instead of, your anger is justified because he treated you badly. Number 4, mediate with certainty, not asking, is it okay if X, Y, and Z? When you go to the dentist, he doesn't ask you, is it okay if I inject you now? He just does it. And you trust him to do it because he's a professional. You don't need to explain yourself to the parties. Some common mistakes in exploration. Number 1, asking, how do you feel about? This question really doesn't serve any purpose. Number 2, leaving questions hanging and then not reaching a conclusion. It's always better to finish the issues one by one as far as possible before moving on to the next issue. Number 3, trying to explore all of the issues at the exact same time instead of having a laser focus on one or two issues. Another bad habit all of us start our mediation careers with is making statements instead of asking questions. Keep your statements to a minimum and you'll sidestep a lot of unnecessary problems. Okay, on to stage 4, option generation, where we build proposals. Option generation is the stage where the mediator lets the parties generate the options. While the parties are doing this, the mediator guides them from positions to interest. A position is what a party says they want. An interest is why it matters. For example, the position is stated as, I want the children every weekend, but the real interest is, I want meaningful time with the children and to remain involved in their lives. Can you see the difference between the two? We have to read between the lines. Once the interest becomes clear, more options become possible. So here are the tactics. Number one, let the parties generate the options. You don't have to do the heavy lifting. Number two, uncover the underlying interests. And number three, get workable options onto the table with both parties making a contribution. Now, my favorite play for this stage is called future mapping. And it goes like this. I want to skip you forward in time 2 years from today. The divorce is over. You have an amazing relationship with your children, and you have a good working relationship with your ex. Maintenance is paid on time every month. Your children are flourishing. Help me to see what you're seeing. What does your life look like in 2 years? Let them answer, and then follow up with this. Okay, how do we get there? So that's an incredibly powerful technique. And what that does is it refocuses the parties from where they are at the moment into the future. And that's how we get them to start generating these options. This one is my fallback question. What is your suggestion for resolving this issue? All right, so we're just giving it right back to the parties. Here are the techniques. Number one, allow the parties to generate the options. You're going to feel tempted to give them the solutions. Don't. This is where you shine as a mediator, by asking the type of questions that guide the parties to the solutions. You already know what a good solution might be. Use that, but do it indirectly. Number two, from time to time, you will be blessed with parties that cannot generate options. Go as far as you reasonably can with guiding questions before you make suggestions. Recognize that making suggestions is second place because now there's a solution on the table, but there's no buy-in. Number three, write down the options the parties generate in their own words. Doing this creates buy-in. The most common mistakes we as mediators make in this stage is, number one, getting stuck on positions. If you get stuck, go back to the best interests of the children. Work on creating that mental picture in your client's mind 2 years into the future. Number two, suggesting solutions too quickly. Number three, stopping the process of option generation the moment you have your first option on the table. And number four, evaluating options while you're still collecting them or generating them, because this kills the creative process. And now the parties are not generating options anymore. Reality testing is where we help the parties to evaluate whether their ideas are practical, sustainable, and workable. Challenge their beliefs. They came to the mediation session expecting to be challenged. Your friends are too kind to tell you where you missed the plot, and your enemies don't want to waste the time. But a good mediator is fearless, and the good mediator will help you to see where you're wrong in a way that is respectful. So challenge their beliefs. Test their options to see if they will survive in the real world. Use the standard of the best interest of the children to show you where north is. Let me give you some questions to ask the parties. Talk me through how this would work in practice. Is this affordable? Walk me through next Tuesday. What happens the first time he's late? Or even about now. If we don't reach an agreement today, what is the next best solution? And what would have to be true for this arrangement to still work in a year from now? All of these questions are designed to show the potential weaknesses of an option or a proposal. Here are two techniques you can use. Number one, create an environment where it's okay to be wrong. That's what brainstorming is all about. Number two, if somebody comes up with a terrible proposal, ask, don't tell. If a judge heard that argument, what do you think they'd ask you next? This one does the work of an opinion without costing you the rapport. And here's how you know you're finished. You're finished when both parties can say what happens if the plan fails and the proposal has a who, a when, and a consequence. Every second weekend is not a proposal. From Friday 6 o'clock in the evening to Sunday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, collect it from the house. And if he's going to be more than 30 minutes late, he has to phone her. Now that's a proposal. The most common mistakes mediators make here are: number one, avoiding reality testing. Number two, or doing the exact opposite and cross-examining the parties. Or number three, even worse, giving legal advice. Onto the final stage in the process. Negotiation and consensus building is the stage where you build the agreement. It is also where you close an issue by turning it into points of agreement, and then you record the exact details. The focus now becomes, what can the parties agree on and what still needs to be resolved? So what are we aiming for? It's one of two results. You either reach a detailed final agreement on key issues, care, contact, maintenance, division of marital property, or you reach an interim agreement. And then you confirm and you record the points of the agreement. Time is always an issue. So especially when you're dealing with a complicated case, you're probably not going to have enough time to get all of the issues resolved in a single session. So interim agreements are fine. Work on the immediate issues first, the urgent issues. Dividing the assets could take days or weeks. What about the immediate issues, like getting interim maintenance paid and ensuring that the children have contact with both parents through the process of the divorce? Remember the details. Amounts of maintenance payments, 5,000 rands a month. Dates of maintenance payments, paid on the 30th of each month. Dates and times for contact arrangements, every second Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock, starting this Friday. See how the agreement is actually just a detailed plan for the future. Compare options, address risks, trade concessions, mutualize common interests. Bank each agreed item in writing as you move through the process. The words you might use might sound something like this. In a side meeting, what could you offer in return for that concession? Or, which of these options are the most workable? Or, is there a possible middle ground? What do we still need to resolve? And when you're closing the session, let's confirm what we agreed today. Here are the techniques. Number one, elicit apologies only if they remove a domino. Do not ask the aggrieved party whether they would like an apology. Do not discuss the apology with the aggrieved party. The apology must come as a surprise. Technique number two, mutualize the common interests. Number three, trade concessions between the parties and then thank them for their concessions. The single most common mistake mediators make is to not go into enough detail. So that's the 7 stages. Now for the 2 detours. The first detour is de-escalation, and this is where we bring the emotional temperature down low enough so that the parties can think, listen, and decide. It is not a stage. Take the detour, do the work, and continue on the stage you left. Choose this detour when the parties keep interrupting each other, when accusations are flying, and when the parties are not hearing each other. Choose de-escalation when the resistance is bigger than the logic of the situation. The tactics are simple. Bring the temperature down. Get the parties back to a place where they're speaking one at a time. In the joint session, let them run out of steam. Then 2 to 3 uncomfortable seconds of silence. Then party Y, we'll come back to that. Party X, please finish. Here we're going to use 3 techniques. Slow down, drop your volume. Use silence to your advantage when you are asking a question. Get over the need to fill every silence with words. A common mistake mediators make is to say, let's keep this constructive. It actually comes across like you're taking sides. Next, the domino detour. The domino is that one thing that is stopping the session from moving forward. Again, it is not a stage. Take the detour, do the work, and continue where you left off. Choose this detour when one of the parties keeps returning to the same issue, or when a party attributes motive. He's only doing that to spite me. Sometimes a party might need acknowledgement before they can negotiate. An affair that hasn't been worked through emotionally is an easy example. But stick to this one rule before you go anywhere near the domino. Do not take this detour while the room is still hot. De-escalate first. The tactics here are 2 things. Give the blockage a name and get permission to work on it. Then get whatever needs to be said out there so that the parties can move on. I want to give you a super valuable tip. Rehearse the apology in a side meeting. When I mediated a case last year without rehearsing the apology, it turned out to be a 10-minute monologue on how she was pushing him to have the affairs and how it's actually her fault. Learn from my mistakes. Detour is done. Now for the last strategy. Risk containment is where we're making the process safe before making it productive. It is not a stage and it is not a detour. Rather, it is something that we keep in place throughout the session. You're going to contain risk. Number 1, when the safety of a child or a person is in question. Number 2, when the parties cannot negotiate freely. Think substance abuse or violence or intimidation or a severe power imbalance. Number 3, when a party agrees to everything without asking a single question. That should immediately be a red flag if you're reading between the lines. And number 4, when a party cannot participate today. The more senior mediators in the room tonight might have a story about that time one of their clients was drinking before a mediation session. It sounds unreal, but mediate for a couple of years and you might just come across it. The tactic is one line. Build safeguards into whatever the parties agree on. And here's a test for whether you've done it correctly. The agreement is still working 100% if one of the parties stops cooperating tomorrow. One final tip. Safeguards are only relaxed on evidence, never on pressure from the parties or their legal representatives. So, what do we actually do with all of this? 3 things. Number 1, learn the triggers. If you can answer what am I trying to achieve right now and why, at any moment in your session, you are mediating, for this being the weakest part of your session. And number 3, pick one thing from tonight and use it this week. Not in a mediation, in a conversation. Master that 2 or 3 seconds of silence. And please use the cheat sheet. I use it in my sessions with my clients. That's the stages of the mediation process. Thank you so much.